years. Class divisions were ossified, and even politeness became part of the legal structure. The Japan of this timeline would be night and day from that of our world. If Christianity was Japan's dominant religion, then they wouldn't view the West with suspicion like they did in our world for 200 years. They would instead view it as a beacon to gain wisdom from. Japan would open itself up to the rest of the world and import Western technology on a massive scale, similarly to what happened 200 years later with the Meiji Restoration. Japanese militaries would keep their scientific warfare, Japan would trade with the European powers, and Japan would communicate ideas with the West. The Dutch had become the dominant European power at this time in the Far East. They had used the weakness of the Habsburg Empire to strip Portugal of most of its Asian possessions. An issue would be the Japanese Christians and Catholics that had been converted by the earlier Portuguese. The Japanese would initially support the Portuguese and likely drive the Dutch off their colony in Taiwan while maintaining preferential trade deals with the Portuguese. Japan would also initially remain on good terms with the Spanish and the Philippines, also Catholics. However, as time would pass, the strict counter-Reformation Spanish church would start to conflict with the more oriental Japanese church. The Spanish would declare the Japanese heretics. War would likely break out between the Spanish and Japanese at some point. I'm making this judgment since just geographically a militarily powerful Japan would inevitably come into conflict over the weaker Spanish Philippines. The Spanish Empire in the late 17th and 18th centuries was a weak corpse that was parceled apart by its neighbors anyway in our timeline. The Japanese, so close to home and with a much larger modern army in the area, would win. The Japanese, using the Philippines as their base, would become an important regional power. In general, having a modern military and being closest to home would give them an enormous advantage over the Europeans in this region, and the militaries of Southeast Asia in this era really weren't worth admiring. If Japan wanted to, it could have taken over this whole region or colonized Australia or the west coast of America. It would have had an enormous geographic advantage, the military technology, and an expansionistic outlook. It's just I have no idea what the regime's positions on these various issues would be. China during this era was ruled by the Qing dynasty and was a military power not to be trifled with. Even though it would be militarily and technologically much less advanced than Japan, its sheer size made it daunting. Japan would likely try to appease the empire, while they would rule the seas beyond it, which the nomadic ruling elite of China didn't give a damn about. After around 1800, Chinese leadership declined and the empire decayed. It seems likely that at some point the Japanese Empire would have humiliated them in some style, like the Opium Wars that happened in our timeline, with modern military technology. In our timeline, during the 1850s and 60s, China faced a civil war. In fact, the third bloodiest war in history, called the Taiping Rebellion, in which Christian rebellions seized much of the center of China and nearly took over the whole country. If a similar rebellion took place in this world, which seems likely, the Japanese would support it if the Taiping rebellions themselves were based on the Japanese rebellion in church. In such a case, we would see a similar Western-focused Christian regime arrive in China, since the Taiping Rebellion was close enough fought in our timeline without Japanese intervention. If Japan intervened, the rebels would have won. The two regimes would likely remain allies, and China would industrialize a century earlier. Keep in mind, any Chinese form of Christianity would become more Chinese than anything, would mix with pre-existing traditions in the same way Buddhism did. In this timeline, we would see China becoming an enormous power a century earlier, around World War I, which would be quite destabilizing. In fact, the whole region would likely ally against China, so that China wouldn't become too powerful, thus adding an enormous Asian front to World War I. However, there is the equal possibility that they would still be our timeline's Taipings, fanatics so destructive to the balance of power that everyone, including Christians, allied against them so they wouldn't get into power, in which case little would change in this timeline. However, we can still expect China to industrialize earlier in this world, as Japan modernizing earlier would have created an earlier precedent of a Confucian nation industrializing. In general, we would see far more powerful East Asian nations in this timeline. As they would incorporate Western technology hundreds of years earlier, we never would have seen the colonization of East Asia by Europeans. Japan would likely be the preeminent Pacific power, and China would be a titan in East Asia. What if Altist, and thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that video, please comment, subscribe, like, and stay tuned for future content. Check out what's going on in Patreon. I've got a lot of really interesting stuff going on, ranging from maps to my history of the world that I'm currently writing. So please check that out, and as always, thank you very much and have a good day.
What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and I'm back at it to give you 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. This time, we will be continuing basically it's a fan fiction that was written way back when on the speculation of what would happen when the storyline of Warhammer 40k continues on to 50k. So we did that a long time ago, maybe about a year ago. So if you wanna read that one, I've got links for it on the description below, and also I will link the video that we did covering the basics to that fanfiction. This video, however, is a continuation of that previous fanfiction. So now we've done 40k, we've gotten to 50k, and now we are going to 60k. So it is basically far into the future of what we know now. Everything has changed drastically, and it's pretty crazy. I greatly encourage you guys. What's up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist back at it again, giving you 40 facts on the Warhammer 40k universe. But this time we are doing things a little bit differently. I've been going through the comments both on here and on the Facebook page, and I've noticed that you guys want a little bit of diversity. So, we will be doing 40 facts on a fan fiction. Now, this fan fiction was written by Lord Lucan, who posted this on Heresy Online back in 2009 and 2010, and it is called The Shape of the Nightmare to Come. Now, what this is mostly about is what would happen in the 40k universe once they progress the storyline and are now in the 51st millennium. So without further ado, let's dive into 40 facts on the shape of the nightmare to come. The overview of the Second Age of Strife. It is the 51st millennium and war continues. There was no great calamitous final battle. Across the vastness of the galaxy, the Imperium died. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. The chaotic empire of humanity crumbled. Its enemies too many, too great, and too terrible to imagine. The great conflict of Octavius had no victory. A war without end. In the fiery chasm of strife, the Locust and the Green Holocaust fused, as beast looked upon barbarian and both saw the other as kin. The new entity spread with a speed of undreamt by the orc or the tyrannid. War and hunger melded into a singular desire to ravage, rape, and remake all in the image of the new Devourer. The Devourer's hybrid nightmares were regenerative and spore-born, combining into a grand horror which murdered the galaxy, leaving naught but fragments as it left. Metallic sentinels of unflinching dread rose up on some worlds, leaving them safe from the new Devourer Wa, but instead made them slaves to the Silver Sentinels and fodder for their glowing metal gods. The Eldar race, who had held on to life for so long, slowly winked out of existence, one craft world at a time. Eventually, even the rumbling hearts of the avatars fell silent. For a time, in the dead craft worlds, something slithers through the infinity circuit to this day. Unfortunately, the great god of the dead, Yanid, is trapped within this infinity circuit, howling its mournful song into the darkness, eternally hungry in its desire to wreak vengeance on she who thirsts. The Tao, naive in their hopes of unity, expanded into a realm of corpses and ash. Every world they came across was dead. The hard and unpleasant task of terraforming each world turned the Tao into bitter, self-righteous beings. They were disgusted at the actions of their predecessors and vowed to not understand their fellow races, but to purge them. Only the Tao could be trusted with worlds. They decided that all others must be cast out. Watching, their patron laughed his sardonic laugh as his puppets were twisted into terrors. The Golden Throne finally failed. No one knew for certain what happened to the Emperor, for once the throne fell, no vox, or astropathic transmission, ever came from Terra again, as warp storms engulfed the planet. The shattered remains of humanity had neither the power nor the will to return. All that is known is that the Astronomicon died with the death of Terra, sputtering to nothing over the course of 500 years. Eventually, the Imperium, its coherency lost by the splitting of its forces against the new devourer and the sudden surge in warp storms, was shattered like glass. Chaotic cults stampeded through humanity like electrical surges in an ancient power grid. With the death of the Emperor, the Inquisition finally lost its grip of unity, and most died, killed by the more powerful within its once hallowed ranks. The greatest Inquisitor lords seized whole systems for themselves, becoming feudal kings and ragtag warlords. The Church also shattered, becoming nothing more than a series of minor cults, all save for Ophelia. The Adepta Sororitas withdrew from as many worlds as they could, and gathered around Ophelia and nearby systems. Ophelia became a vile charnel house for the ecclesiarch, who had been driven insane by all he had seen. He gathered his canonesses, abbessesses, and witch hunters together to put billions to the torch. Any system within range of short warp jumps, as navigators could no longer make long jumps due to the warp storms, of Ophelia were terrorized by the Imperial Church, who searched desperately for someone to blame for this nightmare. It is said that in those days 100,000 petty Imperiums were created from the carved-up corpse of the Imperium of Man. Each claimed legitimacy and claiming to be led by a leader chosen by the Emperor himself. Some even claimed to be the Emperor reborn. Humanity, so scared in their huddled masses, believed this heresy without question, too afraid to imagine a universe without their father and protector. The noble Space Marines fared little better. Most chapters utterly disintegrated as their forces, who fought individual missions across the galaxy, found out that they could not return to their chapter masters. In the darkness and loneliness, many Marines chose the only path they knew: war. They became rogues and near bandits, pillaging Imperial worlds for the war effort, as they could say, in justification for their actions. It was said the White Scar and Raven Guard warbands were the worst, as they were so swift and ruthless in their pillaging. The Black Templars retained most of their original fervor and merely continued their crusades. They became full worshippers of the God Emperor, and High Marshal Dorstros declared a new and greater crusade to destroy every human that did not submit to them and the God Emperor, and to purge everything and everyone else. Their zealotry blinded them to their own heresies, as more and more leaderless Marines, desperate for orders and purpose, tagged alongside their crusade. Millions of ragtag Imperial Guard and massive mobs of Imperial cultists quickly joined the Crusades' march across the stars. Soon their depleted numbers, drained from the wars with the new devourer, had nearly reached 2,000 Astartes, representing the second largest single group of Marines still in existence, second only to the Grand Sicarium. Yet no matter how large their crusade got, the Templars were not but a band of raving fanatics. Ultramar was renamed the Grand Sicarium under their new ruler, Cato Sicarius. His realm became a holy site for the other Ultramarine successors, their fractured remnants gathering around Ultramar like a swarm of flies. Sicarius declared himself High King, decreeing that those under his protection should worship him as a god. Sicarius became the ruler of his own little empire. The angelic marines and ordinary mortals under his decree became his worshippers. Upon Macragge itself, the fortress of obsidian was crafted. The heads of Agamon and Calgar were stuck upon great steel pikes, a grim demonstration of Sicarius' desire to rule over all. Ultramar became a darker place in those centuries. Those forge worlds, still intact after the collapse of the Imperium, either fell to chaos or dragon cult invasions. Some were ransacked by rival warbands, desperate for tech priest slaves to help them work their stolen technologies. Those slaves became bartered like currency amongst the various larger petty imperiums. Some forge worlds simply sealed themselves off from the galaxy entirely, their fabricators for once preferring ignorance over knowledge of what lay beyond. Chaos became a raging torrent in these dark millennia, rising to levels of corruption not seen since the Age of Strife. Worlds were dragged into the warp as whole planets were overrun by rogue psychers, madmen, and monstrous space marines. The Chaos Legions became virtually indistinguishable from rabid bands of Corber loyalists. Some groups slaughtered in the name of the Dark Gods, others just slaughtered. Abaddon the Despoiler seized massive swaths of space around the Eye, being careful not to disturb the new devourer as it blundered around him. Dodging like a skilled swimmer, giving a swarm of predatory fish a wide berth, he avoided them. Abaddon and his 78th Black Crusade plunged into the Sol System. It is there that the legend tells of the War of Two Spheres. Here, Abaddon faced the army of the Dragon Transcendent, a vast army of fallen Mechanicus, and those same Silver Sentinels that already plagued thousands of worlds. The confrontation was epic in scale, warped spawn magic and demonic machinery, as well as weaponry that battled arcane weapons of unimaginable power. The vast serried ranks of Necrons and Pariah, which covered nearly every solid world in the solar system of the Silver Carpet. In the end, Abaddon was forced to merely surround the Horde's cloud. The dragon had ensured that the solar system was his. His, save for a single orb of diamond-hard stubbornness. Titan. It stood as a stony fortress, its doors sealed from the Necrons by adamantium and heavy cannons. Its soul sealed from Abaddon by the cold hard steel cage of faith, encasing the hearts of the Grey Knights and Custodian Guard trapped upon the world. All other humans on the world had perished 1,000 years previously, yet the ancient warriors stood firm, a shadow of the Imperium's past glory. In the turbulent energies of the warp, the Chaos Gods also suffered, for with the end of the Emperor, something else was stirred. Birth upon the death of the Carrion Lord on Terra, the Star Child suckled upon the raged religious lunacy of the dying Imperium, consuming every soul remaining upon Terra in its birth pangs. This is what killed the Astronomicon. Ophelia became a focus for its dark zeal. At the dawn of the 50th millennium, the Star Child became the Star Father, and the warp became a battleground. For a brief instance, or perhaps an eternity. In the warp, none can tell for sure. The Starfather became a dominant over the chaos. Then, with the sickening inevitability of the great game of chaos, the Starfather became one amongst the five, a god of order amongst the gods of chaos. Where they spread chaos, he spread oppression. Where their demons were feral nightmares that rend souls, his demons were faceless, enslaving the souls of humans into servitude. The Starfather's demon world sprung up in the eye and across the galaxy in the closing millennia of this dark age. They were globes of featureless gold, with golden faceless demons, and billions of mindless, empty humans. The inhabitants of these worlds shuffled across the surface for no particular reason until they simply died of starvation or fatigue. It is the 51st millennium, and I cannot wake up from this nightmare. I cannot wake up. And there you have it, guys. That was 40 facts on the fan fiction. Let me know if you guys want me to continue on. It does have 27 parts, and each part is amazing. Again, I gotta give props to Lord Lucan. You really did your research, and you really fleshed out an amazing masterpiece. GW should really take some of these ideas from you. You did amazing. So again, let me know in the comments if I should continue on with this fan fiction, or let me know what else you guys want to hear about. Maybe some battles, or perhaps some of the more obscure races of Warhammer 40k. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more 40k content. And as always, you know me as a Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I am signing out.